Hi, this is Dr. Ramos again, and I'm just going to go over some of the announcements that gave the information how to do SA2. Really, honestly, all I'm going to do is just kind of hit the high points of all the emailed announcements that I posted, and hopefully you've already seen these, but this is just for me to clarify. Now, as I mentioned, that this SA2 is due on Thursday, the 24th, as I mentioned over here, and it is 1,200 words. You'll need to read, you'll need to have Homer and Crash Courses, Virtue Theory, SA2 required sources. And I think folks may be overthinking this or making it harder than it is. So let me go down here. Now, the important thing is to have seen Crash Courses Virtue Theory. If you click on here, it will open this up. And besides the video here, there's a transcript here that you can follow. It is very easy to follow along. And the main ideas from Crash Courses Aristotle Virtue Theory that you'd want to get would either be the golden mean. Golden mean, moral exemplars, and eudaimonia. So you can apply one of those concepts to your analysis of Odysseus or Penelope or Telemachus or Nausicaa or the gods, or apply it for contrasting, let's say, Odysseus and Telemachus, or Odysseus and his wife Penelope, or contrasting Telemachus with Nausicaa or Telemachus with Odysseus, if you want to do a contrast essay, or a classification of different kinds of gods, like Poseidon and Athena and Zeus, or different kinds of male figures like Odysseus, Telemachus, and maybe even Laius, who is Odysseus's father and Telemachus's grandfather. Any one of those topics can work, but the important thing is the theme of virtue comes from Crash Courses Virtue Theory. So you'll need to have seen Crash Courses Virtue Theory in order to get the points you'll need as points of analysis for whatever person you want to explain about. Okay, so I said topic is based on any of the reader responses. In other words, you don't have to reread the entire Homer's The Odyssey, because you should have plenty of material when you did your reader responses here, as well having plenty of material when you did your essay 1. Okay, so you don't have to reread all of that. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. And as I said, your points of analysis, you're using Crash Course Virtue Theories concepts, and I just mentioned this over here, okay? Now, here's the outline. Now, this outline, I mean, if you're really, really at a loss, just follow this outline exactly. The student models that I have did some variations of this outline. And they had no problem, mostly because it was a face-to-face in-class situation, so we were able to talk things out in class. But because of this virtual setting, where you don't have the give and take that we can have in a classroom setting, then this outline, where it's just kind of laid out as a schematic for you, is perfect for you. Just follow it through, and you'll be doing fine. So whatever your topic is, remember, a topic is always a person, place, or thing. In this case, since it's a character-based topic, then that topic would be what person you want to talk about, or what 2 people do you want to talk about, or what 3 people you want to talk about. Okay. And your thesis, again, is what is your opinion, positive or negative, in regards to this person, these 2 people. Maybe you feel more positive about this one person over the other person, or out of the top 3, you feel all positive for all 3 of them, but for slightly different reasons. Or maybe say of all the 3, the number one is, you definitely have your number one, and the other two is a second or third place in your eyes in regards to whatever aspect of virtue theory that you're evaluating them. Okay, so that's in the intro. And all the sections here are examples as evidence. You have your first characteristic, which is you're saying maybe they're humble, or maybe they're not humble enough, or maybe you say they're generous, or maybe they're not generous enough, or maybe you're saying that they're brave, or maybe they're not brave enough. These are characteristics of virtues. Okay, well, we just consider whether they are a bad person or a good person. Okay, and for every single one of these characteristics, you have to support it with examples from the poem as evidence, and then analyze why are they like that. Well, and maybe you can evaluate them saying they're positive because they have positive effects, even if their motives aren't exactly that great, and we can forgive them, for instance. Or maybe you can say that even if their motives are great or positive, the effects were disastrous, and therefore we can judge them as being lacking in this virtue. So using Crash Course's virtue theory, especially in the golden mean of golden mean, remember, means kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, not too much of one thing, not too little of another thing, just right on this one thing. So not too, let's say this, not too overly rash, not too cowardly, just the right amount of courage. So that's the golden mean, okay, of Crash Course, for instance. Okay, and over here, this last section, after you go over your 3 points, to support it with 3 pieces of evidence or 3 areas of evidence, and analysis of why are they like that and what are the effects of that. Then we come here with this last section, in which what can we learn now? Well, if maybe using the moral exemplars idea, or can we use Odysseus as a moral exemplar of what it means to be a good person? Or can a man use Odysseus as a moral exemplar of what it means to be a good man? Or can we say that Nausicaa can be a moral exemplar of what it means to be a good daughter? So that's what we mean by what we can learn in today's world from based upon this analysis here. And again, the conclusion paragraph, restate your thesis again, go over your key points, and maybe give a recommendation or a call to action. And so this outline is a step-by-step writing guide of how to draft your paper, but also a step-by-step guide of how to outline your ideas, from brainstorming all the way to a blueprint that you can use when you draft. Okay, so this is an important part of the writing process for Essay 2, and so by all means, please use this as a guide for yourself. Okay. Okay. Now, if we go up here, okay, I mentioned over here. Again, I keep saying over and over again, use the Crash Course video, but that's you need that in order to get your points. Okay, and let's see here. Let me go back up here. Okay. Okay. This is just to reiterate just how long the word count is. It's 1,200 words. Okay. And this is what I just sent today of the grading rubric. Again, the thesis statement is, what is your opinion of the character or characters in the Odyssey? I got to see what your judgment is. Do you view this person positively? Why or why not? Do you view this person negatively? Why? Or why don't you see this person as negative? Or if you're doing a contrast, which one do you see as better than the other one? Okay. Or of the top 3, which one seems to be the most extraordinary of the 3? Okay. Again, the structure, intro, the body paragraph that has a sequence of what's your first point, what's the example that you can give from the poem, what is your, again, The reason I'm saying poem is because the Odyssey, even though it's long and book length, is technically a poem, a very long poem. So I'm going to say poem every once in a while. And also your analysis of the motives behind these actions or the effects of these actions as a way to support your overall opinion of this person. Again, the word count is 1,200 words. Supporting details all pulled from examples and then crash course. And the rest is identical with essay one: grammar, mechanics, word usage for diction. But now you get two sources that I'm going to be evaluating in order to get to full 10 points, and then manuscript. Okay. Make sure that you post your outline and rough draft in the discussion board so I don't take -5 points off. And make sure you participate in peer review by giving feedback to your classmates in order to keep that 5 points. Now, down here, let me see. I said to review the student models. Let me look over the student models for you. Okay. Now, this one is Alexandria Frausto. And I highlighted the Alexandria's thesis statement. Odysseus is then prevented from evolving as a human being through the interference of Poseidon, Circe, and Athena. And so she is going to evaluate Poseidon, Circe, Athena as negative because they prevented Odysseus from growing as a person. And so here's the first point. First, Odysseus manages to incur the murderous wrath of Poseidon, whose influence over the sea causes many casualties. Okay, and so this is given examples of the whole Polyphemus Cyclops incidents. Okay. And this part here, as a result, Poseidon becomes the root cause of their suffering for the entire voyage. This is where the analysis part is, because as a result is an analysis of effects. So Poseidon is judged negatively because he is the root cause for Odysseus's lengthy hardships. Now, you may disagree with that, but this is Frausto's analysis. Okay, so this is her analysis of what happened in the preceding pieces of evidence here. Okay, her second point is Circe is a complication when refuses to let Odysseus leave her island. Okay, so Circe is the immortal witch demi-goddess, I would say, who originally turned Odysseus' men into pigs and tried to turn him into a pig. Okay, now, and again, Circe never had a purpose beyond turning unfortunate men into swine. Okay, without the main character serving as her entertainment, she becomes irrelevant to the story. Okay, and her evaluation is that even though she's helpful, she's too helpful, as if she's being too enabling of Odysseus not returning home. Okay. And finally, this her third point, most importantly, the goddess of wisdom, Athena, intervenes on behalf of Odysseus throughout his journey in Homer's The Odyssey. But then she said through manipulation and deception. Okay. So the fact that Frausto says through manipulation and deception, those are Athena's methods that Frausto has determined, then she said, then that already tells us that while she is the only Olympian advocating for Odysseus' survival, her actions seem as if he is invincible as long as he has her divine protection. Okay. And it is without, this is also contradictory. And so she, again, Frausto evaluates Athena as this, even though Athena, yes, indeed, is a support of Odysseus, she doesn't help really Odysseus become a full-fledged, developed, mature human being. Okay. Without taking responsibility for his actions, he can never grow as a husband or father. Why? Because Athena will always be there to save his ass, to put it bluntly. So this is Frausto's overall Affect, overall, these three gods treat us as a chess piece rather than a person, influencing his decision, giving him little options. And so it's this where Fausto gives the example of the moral exemplars. Moral exemplars in the Odyssey is an aspect that the story lacks. In other words, there is no role model, really, in the Odyssey, least of all the gods being moral exemplars. And moral exemplars is role models of what it means to be moral, to be ethical. Okay. Okay. So Odysseus, there should be apostrophe here. Problem is serious because in Homer's The Odyssey, the theme is how to be virtuous. Okay. And here is, again, a explanation of the effects of what we can learn. And this is where she brings in Crash Course. Fausto brings in Crash Course. Video on Aristotle and virtue theory explain eudaimonia, which roughly translate into the pursuit of a well-lived life. Okay, is complicated in nature. Again, eudaimonia, you can see the definition in Crash Course. Okay, and I think it means like human flourishing. It brings here. Here's the golden mean. The sweet spot is the golden mean. What it means to be virtuous. In other words, what it means to be a good person, to do to choose good things, to have good judgment. Okay. Okay. So, okay, there it is. Eudaimonia. Eudaimonia. There you go. Cool Greek word that doesn't have a simple English translation. You might say it means a life well lived. It's sometimes translated as human flourishing. And a life as eudaimonia is a life of striving. It's a life of pushing yourself to your limits and finding success. A eudaimistic life will be full of happiness that come from achieving something really difficult rather than just having it handed to you. By choosing to live a eudaimistic life means you're never done improving. You're never to a point where you can just coast. You're constantly setting new goals and working to develop new muscles. Choosing to live life this way also means you'll face disappointments and failures. Eudaimonia doesn't mean a life of cupcakes and rainbows. It means the sweet pleasure of sinking into bed at the end of an absolutely exhausting day. It's the satisfaction of knowing you've accomplished a lot and that you push yourself to be the very best person you could be. Okay, this is morality for Aristotle. It's being the best person you can be, honing your strength while working on your weaknesses. And for Aristotle, the kind of person who lives like this is the kind of person who will do good things. Okay, so at the very end of Aristotle and virtue theory is the definition of eudaimonia. Eudaimonia just means that you're not perfect, but as long as you do your best, and at the end of the day, when you look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day, you can say to yourself, I did the best I could, and I don't have any regrets. Or I have some regrets, but I did good. We did good today. That's what it means to have eudaimonia. And a good person has that. And the question is, okay, and what Fausto says is none of them really has that, okay? Because all of these characters, including the gods, have these flaws and these faults that prevents any one person, any one character to achieve true eudaimonia, at least when it comes to Odysseus. Okay. So, and if you're wondering what 1,200 words is, well, Fausto wrote 1,500 words. Okay. But just by looking at the structure here, it's not padding. She followed the structure of points, examples, analysis of those examples. Here's our second point, examples, analysis of those examples. Third point, examples, analysis of examples. And what can we learn from those experiences is when she brings in the idea of eudaimonia. Okay, so it is very structured, and as long as you structure it and also these word counts, then you will easily make over 1,200 words, just like Alexandria Fausto. And also, let's see here. Okay. Fausto. Okay. Now Nunez, I don't know Nunez. And just like Navi Malo had as well 1,500 words. She did 3 modes of Odysseus' selfishness. Okay, yes, she's analyzing Odysseus specifically, and she has judged him less than, not less than, negatively. Okay, one example of selfishness is because she's looking at his adultery, the fact that he was not faithful to his wife while his wife Penelope was faithful for the 20 years that they've been separated. Penelope was celibate, and just in case you don't know what celibate means, that means she had no sex. The last time she had sex was with her husband Odysseus, and the result of that sex was their son Telemachus. So Penelope has been faithful. All this has never committed adultery, while Odysseus, as we saw with Calypso, as we saw with Circe, has, oh my goodness, has. Okay. And she brings in the example of Circe, an example, and also again Calypso. Okay. And he claims that he loves his family, but again, if he had, then he would have loved Calypso's island. Okay. So that is mostly seeing the effects of Odysseus's actions as being damning of his character. And the other one is power tripping, power to control others. Okay, and she gave an example about, again, Tiresias, about the bag of winds, him not telling them of what the bag of winds is. And again, Navi was questioning, if Odysseus was so fair to his men, then why would he have kept the secret? Okay, again, the effects, the negative effects, just proves the example. Okay, which proves her point that he is too power controlling and not willing to share information. And the last example of Odysseus' selfishness is exceeding need for fame. Again, she brings in the example of, again, Cyclops. Remember when he declared his name, Odysseus, even when they were safe, even when he and his men were safe on sea, but he just needed to have Polyphemus know that it was Odysseus who defeated him and not quote unquote nobody. And again, the effects of that decision, which was disastrous to the men, and also, as we find out, disastrous for Odysseus all the way through the journey because of Poseidon. The negative effects, damns Odysseus's actions. Okay, so Navi did. I don't know why this Nunez is. This is Navi Nunez Malo. Navi's paper was already 15. I think it was already 1,500 words. So she didn't have this section here because she decided to have this section of what can learn from her experience as part of, if I recall, part of the conclusion. Okay. Mostly. Okay. So that is that. So if any one of these body paragraphs are super long anyway, and by the time you get down the conclusion, it's over 1,200 words anyway, then by all means, you don't need to have this. But if you get down here and you're not even close to 1,200 words when you get down to here, then you definitely need to have this section here. Okay. Now this section here is interesting because I could not find, here's Sonia Nunez original paper, but I did have her outline. What Sonia did was that she had an outline and a rough draft merged together. And so this is what is quote unquote called a topic sentence outline. But what's cool about this is that you can see the structure that she followed, the outline of, here's her first point, and here's example from the poem. Here is the analysis. But she also decided to analyze the cause and the effect. Okay. Here's the second point. By the way, she's saying that Nausicaa, she's Sonia Nunez is analyzing Nausicaa as being a moral exemplar of being of virtue. Okay, she is the most virtuous character in in the in the poem, in her opinion, because Nausicaa demonstrates the virtue of generosity, courage, and humility. So she's generous, courageous, and humble. So these three virtues are going to be her 3 points. And so the virtue of being generous in her help, and she gave an example from the poem, and then using Crash Course to show, just to analyze why Nausicaa was like this and what the effect of Nausicaa being generous, and then Nausicaa also having courage. Okay, giving also example from the poem of Nausicaa approaching Odysseus while the rest of her maidservants ran away because they were scared, and what is the motive behind her standing her ground. Okay, also because she's representing the Phaeacians. I mean, she's a princess and she's the spokesperson of her people, and so that's what's motivating her to stand her ground. Okay, and also Nausicaa being humble. Again, bringing an example from again from the poem about Nausicaa being with her maidservants, okay, and and doing laundry with them on the river, and her motive of being humble, where that's coming from. And she says that her mother is the one who motivated her is the motive of Nausicaa being humble, because her mother is humble. And the analysis is showing that of the effect of Nausicaa is Queen Arete. In other words, what Sonia Nunez is saying, that Nausicaa is going to be like Queen Arete when she grows up. She'll be humble and generous, and therefore have a good future ahead of her. Okay. Now this outline, just this outline, granted a lengthy topic, sentence, almost rough draft / outline hybrid, is 1,200 words all by itself. And it's 1,200 words without having a full introductory paragraph and not even having a conclusion paragraph at all. Okay, so here's the works cited for what would have been Sonia Nunez's final draft. Okay, but again, I looked at my folders and I couldn't find her final draft anywhere. But I did have this from the discussion board. Okay, so have this be a, I guess, moral exemplar of your writing. Okay, to show that yes, indeed, if you trust this outline, pick a topic, what person, what character about the Odyssey you want to look at, what aspect of Crash Course's concepts of golden mean, moral exemplar, and eudaimonia. If you want to do all three, like maybe that's your first point, there's second point, your third point, but you can do that if you want. Okay, you can do that if you want. Okay, just make sure that it supports whatever your opinion is, what the overall paper is trying to explain. Okay. And okay. And again, I mentioned look at the student models. Okay. Okay. Oh, last but not least, in regards to the student models, I highlighted in green, okay, the in-text citations, Homer, 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 Crash Course. Okay, so Homer, Crash Course. Okay. Highlighted in green as well, Crash Course, Homer, 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 Crash Course, Homer. Okay. And highlighted in green, here's Crash Course. Again, of course, Homer's already been up here. Crash Course. And goal. It will. What's missing is that the introductory is short, and it's so she would have mentioned, Sonia would have mentioned Homer up here. Okay, so if you want, you can certainly highlight your in-text citations so that you can remember to make it match with the works cited. These is correct works cited MLA style. Crash course starts first, Homer second, because crash course starts with letter C in the alphabet. H, Homer starts H. So remember, the works cited is in strict alphabetical order with hanging indent, double spaced. Okay, and these are correct format. Okay, so again, see, crash course, Homer, crash course, Homer. Okay, so that's all there is to Essay 2. Okay, so use the grading rubric for your self-checklist and do your peer review when you actually have an outline. When you have the outline, use this to make your outline. This is a generic outline. Just make it specific to what your topic happens to be, and your thesis statement. Okay, doesn't have to be long. It certainly doesn't have to be as long as Sonia Nunez with the rough draft outline hybrid, unless you want to make it that way. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so I hope that me going over these announcements in sequential order helps pull everything together in your head. And I'll also mention. I didn't put it here. Okay, I'll also send an email of the online grammar checkers. Online, I think. Oh gosh, I don't remember. One is Grammarly, and there's other ones to help with your grammar. If you have concerns about run-ons and fragments and that sort of thing. Okay, and also I'll resend the manuscript template, because the reason why this looks so good is because Alexandra Frausto and Navi Malo, okay, use the MLA manuscript template that I provided for the class. They didn't have to try to figure out how to do the insert page numbering or double spacing or things like that. Okay, they just use the template that I provided. Okay, so I'll resend that as well. Okay, so that's about it. And I think this video is lengthy enough as it is. And I will stop there. Okay, have a good evening. Bye.